For Thursday, July 7th, order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Mr. Hairston.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Gallagher is absent at the moment. Mr. Shrine. Mr. Shrine is absent. Ms. Brown.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Okay, in the absence of quorum, as we await one more member of the committee to attend, we're going to amend the agenda. Well, let me go back. We have public comment related to the agenda.
No, Mr. Chair, there is no public comment, and you do have a quorum.
We do? That's right, we do. 4 to 7, that's right. Okay. Approval of the minutes for May 31st. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion is made and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The minutes are approved. And we'll let the record reflect that Council members Jones and Council President Brady are in attendance. The clerk will please read the first item referred to committee into the record.
Resolution number 2016-0121, adopting the annual tax budget, including the Cuyahoga County Library budget for the year 2017.
Very good. And who's here to address this issue?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Before you is the resolution that was submitted at the last council meeting relative to our annual filing of the tax budget for Cuyahoga County. This is in accordance with provisions of the revised code and is filed with our budget commission, similar to how all municipal and school districts file their tax budgets with our county budget commission. And this is our legal authorization to continue to apply property taxes for the upcoming year. The budget estimates that were used to compile the tax budget were based on primarily the first quarter projections out of OBM for 2017. We did take the property tax distributions and revenue estimates directly from the numbers provided by the County Budget Commission, which reflects the updated property values. Again, this is a standard submission which has to be approved by council and filed with the Budget Commission by July 15th in order for us to continue applying property taxes in the subsequent year.
Okay, so this will be required for second reading suspension at the July 12th meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would ask that council would do so.
And that way we can meet the deadline of the 15th and still be compliant and still able to collect tax, correct?
That is correct.
Not only us, but the other bodies to whom we're including in this.
Correct.
So we don't actually approve the library as an example, since they're mentioned here. This is just an inclusion of library tax in with our submission,
Correct, and that'll be filed with the Budget Commission as well.
Okay, great. Any questions? Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, Director, the briefing memo says that the 2017 tax budget results demonstrates that there will be a need for additional revenue of $28,798,413. How do we plan to address that situation?
Councilman, that compilation just demonstrates that there is a need for additional revenue, which then authorizes the county to continue to apply property taxes. We will, as part of our fall budget update, give a more in-depth presentation as to where we stand at that point in the year and what we think we need to do to cover any kind of operating deficit that would be projected. This is just based on the projections of the numbers that we have currently, and it is compiled just to demonstrate the need to continue to apply property taxes.
And Mr. Chairman, Director, am I correct that you're not planning on recommending any measures to increase revenue, but that it would be handled by reining in expenditures as needed?
That is correct. At this particular time, we're looking at all avenues in terms of reductions of expenses. And just so the committee knows, there is no increase to any of the millage that's associated with the property tax for 2017.
Any further questions? Mr. Miller, no? Any questions from other members? No? Okay. All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to refer Resolution 2016-0121 to full council for second reading, suspension on the July 12th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
On our agenda, we have one item for discussion. That's the 2016 casino revenue. And the reason that this item is before us is there was a request on the, this is for discussion only, but there was a request on the Board of Control agenda, at the last council meeting on the fiscal agenda to appropriate the $3.8 million that's up for discussion right now of additional casino revenue to the administration as part of the pre-approved budget. During the budget, we obviously had the discussion to move casino revenue transferred to the administration for the Economic Development Fund. However, it was silent as to how that money was going to be transferred. Was it going to be pro rata over the year or in a lump sum as the request was made on the fiscal agenda? So that item's being brought up for discussion purposes only. There'll be no action taken today. Who on behalf of the administration is prepared to discuss this?
Chair, I can give the committee some background of the financial information. I could not speak as to some of the numbers that are coming out of development in terms of proposed projects, but in terms of the numbers as they are reflected in the most recent analysis, I believe the council members were provided a memo earlier today that outlined the current balances of the fund. As you're aware, the $3.8 million, as was stated, was included in the budget plan to be transferred. We had included that on the last fiscal agenda simply to get all the transfers out of the way prior to the end of the year. There really was no significance to the timing or to the amount. So we're here to discuss any of your needs related to how you would want that handled between now and the end of the year.
So just to refresh the committee's memory, during the fiscal agenda that was actually adopted, there was an amendment that was made on the floor. It was for the actual 2015 collections was what was transferred over. Correct. And that number was 2 point, I don't, what is the exact number? Do you?
One. It is one.
The exact number that was that that was the 2.9. Was Mr. McAleer, do you recall the exact number? 2.3 million was the actual transfer over. The 3.8 or so was the amount that has been collected this year. Do you have the amount of casino revenue that's been collected this year in the first 2 quarters?
Year to date in the casino fund, we have $3.82 million as collected. Second half projections are $3.57 million.
Okay. And in the budget that was adopted, what was the amount that was to be transferred to for the Economic Development Fund?
I believe it was just under 6.2 million. That included the transfers and the 3.8 million.
It was 3, okay. So the discussion, and the reason I wanted to bring it before committee is, as we recall during the budget process, the administration was to receive part of the casino proceeds from the casino money, and council and its fund would receive the other half. The administration, during its presentation on the fiscal agenda, had transferred all of the year-to-date collected money into their account. And so just to bring it to the committee's attention, the reason that we withdrew that item and made the amendment was to have a further discussion as to how we want to proceed with that appropriation and when. There obviously is no challenge to the budget agreement that was made insofar as the money going to the executive versus staying within the council designated area. It was just silent to how those proceeds were to be transferred. So my preference, just as chair of this committee or as a member of council, is that we honor obviously the amount that we committed, but that we transfer over as the projects are submitted for approval. And that should not hamper anybody's decision-making objectives or violate the agreement with the executive, but I'd be willing to hear my colleagues' feedback on that. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we, the administration and the council just sort of stumbled into this part as it was not anticipated, that the request for that larger transfer didn't take into consideration some very basic issues that would involve the council not having funds potentially available to it. Truth is, we're having an abstract conversation. There's no real disagreement here of any kind that I can see. It's just that we didn't, at the time of the budget or since then, come up with a specific approach to how we go about this. I don't have any objection to the chairman's recommendation, but I'd like to hear, because we haven't, from the administration, if there's something that we're missing that would be helpful to the county in some way that we don't understand or that I don't understand.
Mr. Chair, Councilman Brady, this was simply put through as bookkeeping to get the transfer that was part of the budget posted to the fund. As I said, there really is no significance in terms of the timing or the logistics. We'd be happy to work with you to adjust those amounts on an as-needed basis. I think from the administration standpoint, the only concern we have is that that number be included in the amount that's transferred by December 31st.
I assure you, we haven't forgotten the amount or the other amount that was set aside for the council's consideration. So, I mean, that's my opinion on it. I think we just sort of didn't clear this. We didn't clear this up, so inevitably we got to this day where we need to do that.
Right.
Anybody?
Anybody else have a question or on this point? I'd like to bring Director Carter can come up and maybe address some of the ED needs to support, let's say, the 3.8 million at this time. What do you need? I guess the question is, what do you need actually transferred over in order to meet some of the commitments or items that the CCCIC is approved and are ready to move forward?
Good afternoon. Ted Carter, Director, Office of Development. Your question again, Councilman?
Sure. So so obviously the request was for 3.8 because, as we heard from a book transfer standpoint, to make the funds available that were agreed in the budget. But as of right now, how much of that 3.8 has been approved for projects to be funded?
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, since most of these projects preceded my arrival, just so that we're precise in terms of the information we're giving, I'm going to ask Director May to come up and just walk you through. So we do have a spreadsheet, and as the budget officer, this is a moving process. Sure. So with your permission, I'd like Mr. May to come up and.
Mr. Chairman, Mike May, Department of Development. Mr. Chairman, in broad brush, just so that we have a context for the overall issue, we have, through legislation, there has been approved 16 loan projects that total about $14 million. So we have legislation for, again, 16 projects that total an amount, a commitment of $14 million in loans. We have been working with a certain amount of money, and I can't pinpoint the exact amount. OBM fiscal would have to give you that, but there is a carryover from 2015 general funds that is going toward that issue. It was part of the budget. It basically was the first in funds for whatever activity that we were going to be doing for 2016. And by the way, holdover projects from 2015 that had been approved legislatively but had not legally closed yet. So basically what we have now are those, that handful of projects that have crossed over into 2016 and a series of projects from 2015 and then 2016 projects that were legislatively approved and are now Again, there are 16 of them, and they total about $14 or $15 million, and they are basically now in a pipeline of coming to get reimbursed, coming to get their disbursement. So there's a whole lineup of, of these 16 loans that are basically ready to get paid. So that's sort of the full sort of issue, or the situation that we have right now, the $14-15 million, which juxtaposed against $2.3 million that was that you just discussed with regard to casino revenue from 2015 that did go into the Job Creation Fund, and $3.8 million that we're discussing for 2016. The slice, if you will, of casino revenue to go to Job Creation Fund, and then a certain amount of dollars from, I believe it's something like $10 or $11 million coming over from the general fund, 2015. So where I'm going is that there's a matchup. We're pretty much at the level now where loans have been approved legislatively, they're closing, most of them have legally closed, they're real, and we now have to disperse the funds. So that's the equal thing that we have going right now. So the $3.8 million, I think an argument can be made that we may not be able to wait for 3.8 to sort of come into this picture by the end of this year. It may be needed a little bit earlier than that.
And I don't believe that we have an issue with any of that. I'm just trying to get a handle on, if I read this document from Director Keenan, where we're talking about the Economic Development Fund, it looks like at the bottom it's listed that there's about 2.9 million short in the fund to which this 3.8 would help offset. Does that sound about right?
It sounds about right, yes.
Okay,
And
so-
I'm not sure what you're referring to, Mr. Chairman, but I don't know what memo that is, or.
I'll give you a minute to look that
Yeah,
over.
Mr. Chairman, what I would say in the simplest form, given the pipeline that we've reviewed internally in this discussion, I think the sooner the money can be transferred, that there's obligations that are in process that need to be fulfilled once the transfer is made. So, but I think your question is a little different, if there's a gap apparently between what's.
Well, I'll go to Mr. Miller and then we'll come back. Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, to Mr. May, I would like to ask about the May Company project. The last we heard on that, we were waiting to hear from the developer as to whether they were able to put together an alternative mechanism of funding, and I'm wondering whether or not we have a resolution on that question yet.
Councilman, I have to defer. I'd like to ask Sarah Jackson to come forward and talk to you about that, because I have not been involved in the latest activity with regard to the Casino Revenue Fund, so I don't know the status of the May Company right now. But I think she may be able to enlighten you a little bit.
Good afternoon, Sarah Parks Jackson, Department of Development. We are waiting for word from Mr. Carney, who, as a matter of fact, has called me to give me an update so that I can move forward with their approved $4 million or not. As of December, they did not get the mega tax credit. So that's the second time they have not received that funding that they were anticipating. So as soon as I hear from Mr. Carney as to what the latest iteration is for the financing of the May Company building, I can advise this body.
Okay, and so it's still alive, no decisions been made.
That's correct.
And my other question is whether the $4 million for the May Company project, is that one of the 16 projects that you identified for a total of 14 to 15 million?
No, sir. No, Councilman.
That's
The project that I'm describing have strictly to do with the Western Reserve Fund / I think soon to be the Job Creation Fund. So that it's strictly economic development side of things, and that Job Creation Fund, not casino. Nothing that I talked about had anything to do with casino revenue projects.
understood. Okay. Okay, thank you.
The May Company, the money for the May Company, that's outside this fund, is that what you're saying?
It is in the casino revenue venue. And again, as Sarah indicated to you, I don't know the status. I guess it was, it's on hold. It was, I think, approved legislatively, but the project then didn't get the catalytic tax credit, so it's kind of sitting there in limbo.
No,
right now.
we're all familiar with that. My concern is where's the money to fund it? Here's what I'm looking at, and walk me through. You've got that document, right? So the document from Director Keenan. So if the beginning cash is 7, the casino revenue coming in, we see all that there. It comes down to total available resources, 26.9. The approved is 29, which obviously gets us to the deficit of 2.9, right? So we see that. Are we being told now that the $4 million from May Company is not included in any of this?
If I could
Yeah.
interject, Mr. Chair, you made a previous reference about the 3.8 million. That number is included in the revenue side on that chart as part of the 6.1. As far as the $2.9 million deficit at year end, that's inclusive of the $10.5 million of pending projects there are right now. So our point is that if all the projects that have not been considered legislatively come to fruition, we will not have enough money to do that.
Okay, so
Just
what
to
you're,
straighten it.
so what you're saying then, what we're being told is basically that we have more in the pipeline than we have funding for, including the $3.8 million transfer. Yes. Okay, so take the pending projects out of the equation. How much money is in the fund right now?
It would be the difference between that 10.5 and the 2.9. Because that 10.5 creates the negative variance there.
So roughly about 7 million, just
7.6, I believe.
Yeah. So the 7.6 in the fund, and that includes a 3.6 million. And so are we short in the fund to fund the projects that are ready to be funded? Does that make sense? A lot of fund in that word. But
When you say ready, Mr. Chairman,
are you ready to stroke a check?
That we're ready to strike a check? Well, the wild card in this, again, is, and I've referred to it before, is a transfer of 2015 general fund carryover into the job creation fund. And I don't know the status of that. I believe I saw something in the line of $13 million that was to be transferred into the job creation fund to speak to or match up and be cash available for the 14 million that I was talking about in terms of ready to be dispersed. So without that money, we actually fall quite short, because if all we're talking about is some holdover money that we had in the job creation fund that we already had in cash, and the pending casino revenue monies that we've just talked about, the $2.3 million and the $3.8 million, we do need that general fund carryover money from 2015. Once that's done, that matches up well with the closed loans, if you will, of, again, about $16 million. The issue, and again, I haven't seen this memo, but in my vernacular, what we're looking at is a pipeline, again, a pending pipeline of about $10 million. And when all is said and done, if these monies that I've been talking about come over in, there will be probably $9 to $10 million to match up with that.
So you mentioned, Mr. McAleer, can you come to the podium? I have a question. It was my understanding that when we amended the fiscal agenda to include the full transfer number, that was all the 2015 transfers left from 15 into 16. Is I'm not hearing that now.
Casino fund.
Right. So that was all the casino money. And what they're talking about is ED money left over from one year to the next.
The general fund reserve, the $13 million, which was always below the line,
Right.
intended for economic development. What Michael was talking about is
Right.
that has yet to be appropriated, but the intention is that would be used for economic development.
And so if you need that money, no issues, it's in the budget, it's been approved. Why has it not yet been requested to be transferred over?
I do not know, Mr. Chairman. OBM would have to speak to that.
I don't know, Mr.
And I apologize, I've been using the word carryover or whatever, but it's a $13 million reserve
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
general fund.
I mean, we all remember where that is in the budget. It's right there below the line.
And, Mr. Chair, in OBM's memo, she is factoring the $13 million as part of the revenue for 2016.
Right, right. Yeah, I saw that in the memo. My question is, why have we not, you need the money, you've got projects ready to be funded. That legislation hasn't even come before us. So is that going to be on the next fiscal agenda to do that appropriate? I'm wondering why you need it, why has it not been presented to us to vote on? Have you not requested, is the department not request?
We have requested it
You have requested it?
of OBM.
Okay, well, okay. And the director's not here. Mr. Kennedy, can you address that? Do you know? I mean, you might.
I do not know specifically. My understanding is there is enough cash balance right now in the fund to accommodate the projects as they come to fruition.
Okay.
I know the $13 million subsidy is going to be on a subsequent fiscal agenda. I'm not sure it's on the next one.
Okay, yes. Okay, well, let's hear from development. What,
Again, Mr. Chairman, again, over the course of the last 3 months, it's been clearly noted that we need that $13 million now,
okay,
right away.
okay. Well, so now it's on the record. Look, we're just trying to help. We're not even,
appreciate it,
there's
Mr.
not
Chairman,
even
I
a
do.
discussion about, the only discussion originally was the 3.8, do you need it now or how much do you need now versus later? And now we're getting into a larger discussion on the need. So I would just encourage whomever to get whatever needs to be presented so that we can comply with the budget agreement and that we can ensure, I guess my fundamental objective is to ensure that the money is available, that we've agreed to, is available when you need it. I'm a little hesitant about moving money over in advance of it being requested, but if you need it, you've got the project, it's in the budget, the cash is there, let's just get it funded so we can.
That will not be the case, Mr. Chairman. It's needed now. The disbursement requests are in the pipeline right now for a large chunk of money,
Okay,
matching up with over $10 million
okay,
of need right now.
all right. My only suggestion is let's just get what you need, let's get it done, get you funded, get this money in the community so these jobs can be created and we could advance the economic interests of the county.
Mr. Chair, I will look into it and get something back formally in writing.
Great,
About the
thank you.
13 million.
Mr. Mack, did you have anything you want to add or?
I just wanted to point out for the committee that on the third page of the document provided by OBM titled Economic Development Fund, it lists the $10.5 million of pending projects that have not been approved yet. So if you wanted to see the 6 or so projects that are in the pipeline, that's the $10.5 million that is pending.
Okay. Great, thank you. And that's the last box on page 3. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. This was for discussion only. There was no action to be taken, just to clarify the need. I think we've done that. I think there's some questions that have come out of it, but I think we've addressed those, and my expectation is that we'll be able to clarify the needs of the Department of Economic Development or Development with the fiscal requirements to fund the projects that have already been approved in the budget. Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you for adding this to the schedule today. I think it now has the attention of several council members in a way that it did not before. And so we'll be looking forward to doing our best to understand this so we can make the right decision.
Great, well, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, is there any miscellaneous business? I will say we will be having a special meeting date and time next Thursday at, we're at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock? There are a couple items that'll be on the council agenda on Tuesday that we referred to committee, and because we will not be meeting the week of the RNC, and these items need to be addressed in committee before our next council meeting, that's the reason for the special meeting. So it'll be at 2 o'clock next Thursday. Okay, just to make that announcement. Any other public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Trevor.